में लिया जा रहा है. We are now about to meet someone who has been a champion of celebrating Indian cuisines on a global platform. He actually needs a very little introduction, but nonetheless, he deserves a huge one. He is a world-renowned chef, a television presenter, an author, and a passionate food lover. When we think of MasterChef Australia, we think of him. A much loved judge on the show for 12 incredible seasons, India has loved him and he has loved us back too. That's perhaps the reason that he's visited India over 20 times, documenting India's food and our colorful festivals. He's a true champion of sustainability and the future of food. His passion for where our food comes from and how we can protect it inspires everything he does. So there's a quick video introduction coming up first, ladies and gentlemen, but a huge round of applause for the incomparable Gary Mehigan. I think we can do better than that, can't we? Let's give it up for Gary Mehigan.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. How are we? It's like there's nobody here. Oh. Well, what can I say? I'm here to talk about food, and food is the great unifier. And when people ask me the question, what's special about food, then, the answer's pretty simple, isn't it? I mean, it just brings everybody together. I do need this teleprompter to go faster, though. It brings people together. How could it not? In my life, nearly all of the most memorable moments have been punctuated by delicious food. It's shaped me into the person that I am today. And if I think about it, if I wind the clock back, my mother cooked everything from scratch. No fast food, no fizzy drinks, no matter how much we asked for them. And we always sat down for dinner together as a family, which I see as crucial in the way I grew up. It's a tradition that I've cherished and carried forward into my own family. TV and devices are turned off. We sit, we eat, we talk. Come on, auto cue, keep going. The conversation may be slow, but it always happens. The words come, troubles are aired, problems are solved. We celebrate our wins. We may laugh, we may cry, but we do it together. And we put the world to rights on a full tummy. Food sustains us. It sustains us physically. We know this. You've heard the term, we are what we eat, but certainly our choices have ramifications to our health and to our environment. But most importantly, food sustains us mentally. We're social animals. Our experience tells us to be happy, to be healthy, to live a long life. We need to eat great food. We need to breathe clean air. We need to reduce our stress. And we need to be engaged, most importantly, with our community. Like art and music, it's not like art, music, food. These are the great pleasures that bring us together. These things remind us what we have in common rather than what we don't. If there's ever a time to celebrate that, that's now. The enjoyment of food and food shared sits squarely at the very heart of our humanity. Our ability to work together in the past, to survive in the face of adversity, was based on hunting and gathering. It's now evolved into cooking, into providing, into nurturing. Coming together during harvest periods of fasting, of feasting, have become something that we celebrate throughout human history for a good reason. As Maslow puts it, without food and shelter and warmth, we can't flourish. Life may seem more complicated today than it was for our ancestors, but without these things, our morality, our creativity, our spontaneity, our commonality. These are things that may not have been born at all. Imagine what life would be like in its simplest terms without delicious dishes that we all grew up with, that we have the fondest memories of. It defines our cultures. We're immensely protective and proud of these recipes. We relate to them, we look forward to them, we relish them. In fact, many of the great treasures and currencies of the past was food, and it remains so today. So let's talk a little bit about MasterChef. Does anybody remember MasterChef? We watching any of it? I was on it, just to remind you. It occupies a really special place in television history. In Australia, it aired in 180 different countries around the world. Just think about that for a second. The final of Series 3 holds the record as the highest rating show on Australian television to this day, bar the Sydney Olympics, with 5.7 million people watching it in Australia. That's a quarter of the population. And in India, it was never more popular than it was here. About 6 to 7 million people a night watched this for 11 years. And the kudos of reinventing MasterChef in the Australian version goes to Mark and Carl Fennessy, and a brilliant team of professionals who brought their vision to light. The three of us, Matt, George and Gary, let's be honest, the three most unlikely television stars on the planet, we gave the show a little bit of magic, something they didn't expect. We made it collegiate, supportive and positive in a way television is reluctant to be, if you can relate to that. And I remember in 2008, when the start of the global financial crisis really crunched, it was a time of uncertainty, of insecurity. MasterChef brought families back to the dinner table. And if you think about the fact that it was across 180 countries, that was not an insignificance. Spending time together over a meal was something that, for many people, they hadn't done for years, and it struck a chord. It became a perfect antidote for a chaotic world. And this was just food. Commentators and critics couldn't believe it. We talked about food infused with love. We talked about passion, determination, and unlike our normal lives, where we learn not to volunteer, where we learn not to admit our mistakes for fear of failure and at worst ridicule, we did exactly the opposite. It was all about praise. It was all about inspiration. And the results were dazzling. They were there for everybody to see. MasterChef also reminds us that learning from each other is a wonderful thing. Regardless of gender, of religion, of race, we can celebrate our differences and we can gain so much in return. Today, MasterChef has left a whole generation of kids who are now young adults in their mid-20s and 30s that think differently about food, hugely influential. And compared to a generation before, hopefully, that's a good thing. It provides opportunity for our future. And so to India. If you know me, you know that I love this country. I love its culture, its history, the passion, your sense of humour, and if you relate to this, dare I say it, a healthy disregard to authority. You like to push back once in a while. But it's your festivals and your food that I adore most. No one on the planet knows how to celebrate like India. Food is quite rightly the centre of every gathering and celebration. There's a real sense of togetherness during these festivals. It's unlike anything I've experienced anything else in the world, which is wonderful. In my travels, I've been lucky enough to have encountered some incredible things. I've experienced Holi in Braj Bhumi, not just throwing colour or drinking a little bhang, but celebrating the love of Radha and Krishna and the devotion of their followers. I've paid my respects to the great King Mahabali during Onam at Trikakara Temple with 30,000 others. I've watched the lightning charge of the Nihang Singhs during Hola Mohalla. And although these were extraordinary, connecting people with food changes everything. It heightens our senses. Importantly, it opens our hearts. By taking prasad in the palm of your hand with thousands of other followers, or sitting next to your fellow man on the temple floor enjoying sadhya, or enjoying a meal in the Gurudwara, and having returned the blessing of seva or service in return. This is what makes food the great unifier. It entrenches a sense of loyalty, of familiarity, of togetherness. This is a very powerful thing. It can bring tears to your eyes, and it has done me. It becomes something that's captivating and humbling. India occupies a unique position in the world. It's young, it's optimistic, It's got a strong sense of its national identity, and it's broken free and it's taken its place on the global stage. The pace of change is startling, but this change brings problems. When we talk about food and we talk about the Green Revolution, it's saved millions of lives, but it's made farmers dependent on patented seeds, on fertilizers, on single crops. And now, more than any time in history, we need to shift our thinking and tackle a new set of challenges. This is not an unfamiliar story. It's happening around the world. India, however, has the chance to lead in a very different way. What we need to know is the migration of young people from land to the cities has been devastating. The people closest to the land are getting left behind. The people furthest from it are detached and becoming more indifferent. But there's hope. India has an amazing opportunity to make a difference. Most of India's food still comes from small farm homesteads, biodiverse and indigenous food systems, and it feeds 1.4 billion people. The Year of Millets was an inspiration. The most successful public campaign in history, not just in India, but around the world. Look at what it's done. It's steered the ship in a different direction. We embrace the idea of doing things better, celebrating food security, regionality, sustainability, community, and most of all, well-being. The rest of the world is curious. This is what you need to understand. For all of those reasons I've described, but you also have the best street food in the world, thousands of regional dishes that no one has a clue about, including your fellow Indians. Artisans are bursting with brilliant ideas. There's a few people sitting on the front row here that I've brought along that set up a stand with Konosh at the back. We'd like you to appreciate it. Shiva Shah from Tillage, Fiona Ackrell, founder of Ishka Farms, Prateek Mehra from Spotted Cow Cheeses, Chetang Suji, founder of Forest Garden Microfarms, and Konosh, who I work with closely, who are a young progressive company showcasing India's best chefs and home cooks, providing a platform for them to grow and to network. These people are creating a bridge between Indian gastronomy and global culinary trends. We need to think about that. We need to support that. They are trailblazers and they're thinking about India in a different way. There are some challenges, big ones of course. Climate change, environmental pressures, but there are other issues that are more easily addressed. Logistics, moving and storing fresh food around smartly and efficiently. Responsible animal husbandry, best practice benchmarks, food hygiene, and paying a fair and reasonable price for our food. And a commitment to public education and a clear path towards food and better health. A lot to think about, I know. But in 2047, I see an India that's booming. It's modern and fast-paced, yes, we know that. But importantly, it hasn't forgotten what makes it truly special. Farmers will be flourishing. The new opportunities will ensure a generation of producers and artisans will be doing very well indeed, exporting their produce not around the country, but around the globe. Imagine, just for a minute, these passionate people championing the kind of regional food we never imagined the rest of the world would fall in love with. And there I'll be, older, of course, 82, I think, sipping my early morning chai with a little extra ginger, a little extra pepper and cardamom out of a clay cup. Still, it took a while for the rest of the world to catch on, but they'll do it. A couple might walk up to me, sip their tea, they smile, I smile back. Where are you from, I ask. Are you on holiday? Yes, they say, we're from San Sebastian in Spain. We're having a wonderful time, and the tea is delicious. And in 2047, India has become a food lover's dream. But then we always knew it was. Thank you.
So much for that, Gary. You know, the way you've loved India, the way you've loved our varied cultures, our varied foods, you really endeared yourself to us. And we hope you keep coming back, you keep educating us. There's lots to learn, even in this session. So I'd like to bring on our moderator for this session. Can we have Dibangji on the stage, please? Please have a seat, Gary. We can't wait to hear more from you. A huge round of applause, please, for Gary Mehigan.
That was a lot of information, wasn't it? Yeah.
So I believe you understand Hindi. नमस्कार, मैं हूं दिबांग और इस विशेष सत्र में बात होगी गैरी मैगन से। जी गैरी मैगन जो हैं
I don't speak Hindi, just so you know. My Hindi is very limited.
which are the words you picked up in Hindi?
Oh, I can say, मेरा नाम Gary है, आपका नाम क्या है? That's about it.
So Gary Mehigan, you spoke about 2047 and you seem to be very optimistic. You are an optimistic person.
Yeah.
But just see what's happening in the world today. For instance, they are saying that by 2030, kitchens will disappear. Already in the upmarket areas of Singapore and New York, you have flats with no kitchen space.
Yeah.
Most of the millennials, they order food 3 times more than what their parents would. What's on the, if you see on your mobile phone, one of the most downloaded things are the dark kitchens.
Yeah.
Where is the kitchen going now?
We're facing some enormous challenges. And as a chef, as somebody who loves food, who respects our farmers and producers and artisans, we've got an enormous challenge. I think you're right. I think the world's changing so fast, most of us actually can't keep up. And the idea of the kitchen, the family table, disappearing is terrifying. And we've got some very real choices to make, I think. There's nothing more convenient, or there's nothing more wonderful in a sense of modern convenience. We feel like kings. This is something none of our parents or our grandparents would ever have dreamed of, to be able to tap into an app and get a delivery of something within 10 minutes. But I think we've really got to think about this. I think the decisions that we make now and the choices that we make as consumers are going to affect our planet and our environment more than we can possibly imagine. So the idea of a kitchen disappearing is terrifying. The idea of dark kitchens replacing the home kitchen, the idea of, and what we see now is, young families, young children sitting in front of the television, or worse, actually sitting in front of their own devices, completely detached from each other, and not being able to bond over a meal, breaks a cycle of humanity that's been in place for a millennium. And what effect that will have on people, on their mentality, and on our environment, I think is unfathomable. And we need to make the decisions now.
Okay. At the end of this conversation, there's a little exercise that I have for you. I'm not asking you to cook, it's something else.
Yeah.
But before that, if you see the nature of dining table has changed, there are children, young children, toddlers, preschool kids who can't have their food if they don't have something on the screen.
Yeah.
And what are they watching? They're watching Peppa the Pig.
Yeah.
And they have the same accent when they talk.
Or Dora the
Where
Explorer.
does it leave the food? What happens to food in this kind of situation?
Look, I think these are the things that as a parent, I made a conscious decision, like my mother did, to make sure that we sat down at the table, that the television was off, that we ate home-cooked food. It's the most personal thing you can do for somebody, really, is to cook for them. And my daughter used to kick and scream. She's 24 now, but she would kick and scream. All my friends, they're allowed to watch TV. I can sit on the couch and eat my dinner. No.
You're
TV
a terrible father.
I was a terrible father. So the TV went off, the phones, left in another room, and we sit down. And what it's done over the years, it's given her a center point in the family home. It's given her the opportunity to share her views, to have her views challenged, to grow, to appreciate food, to learn how to cook, to appreciate where your food comes from. And in fact, there's a saying I hear quite often, that if you don't cook, then how could you care? And what I mean by that is if you don't know where your food's from, if you don't appreciate even an egg being cracked into a pan, then you don't really care where it comes from, and it's crucial. So what I hope for is that whether it's conversations like this or whether it's Konosh, for example, who I work for here in India, that are all about the idea of home-cooked food and home cooks and celebrating everything that represents, or celebrating our suppliers going into the future, that we remind ourselves always in the face of commercial pressure of what makes us human and what's important.
One of the big things that's changing is the climate change.
Yeah.
And because of climate change, crop patterns are changing. We know that in Sicily, vineyards are being replaced by crops of avocado, passion fruit, and lychees.
Yeah.
You talk about tea and tea from India, from Darjeeling. There are 500 acres of coffee plantation now because of climate change. Because of climate change, the grapes have become sweeter, more acidic. Lettuce is bitter. Apples are not that crisp. Where is food? I mean, how is it going to survive all this?
I mean, there's nothing more certain than change, is there? I mean, that's what we know. I think what it's requiring from our farmers and producers, our artisans, is a greater adaptability, a willingness to change. The hurdles, obviously, like I talked about in the first address, is the fact that much of our agriculture is big agriculture. You know, we're buying our seeds, they're patented, we grow singular crops. There are very few varieties now of particular crops grown around the world. There might be 2 types of pig, 2 types of bananas, 5 types of coffee. Now the challenge then is that when climate changes, and it's very regional, it might change in Darjeeling, the whole crop is destroyed, or the challenge of growing that crop becomes huge. What, as an optimist, I look at is that we're recognizing this. There are people that are solely committed to bringing old strains, old seeds, new varietals in the face of these challenges to solve it. And the Year of Millets was a good example. You take an ingredient that had been cooked with for thousands of years, that was resilient, fairly low yield, based on modern strains of wheat or corn, for example, that may require less water or more water, depending on where you are, that may be more resilient in times of drought, but then in times of a drench, in monsoon. And you see these people championing that. There are seed banks that contain every seed that's ever existed on the planet. And they're there to be drawn upon. And even scientists now are seeing the value in that, and politicians too, governments too. So as an optimist, I think we'll solve it. I think we're okay. But I think the biggest challenge is to get the general public, it's us, to change.
No, but Gary, if you see large cardamom, large cardamom, 90% of it was produced in Sikkim. But the streams are drying,
Yeah.
there are less rains, cardamom production has gone down considerably.
Yeah.
You have to consider that also. What do you do about that?
Yeah. You need to adapt, you need to change. It happens in Australia. You have great periods of drought, great periods of wet. We're growing crops, quite honestly, that we shouldn't be growing in the areas we're growing. If we look back in history, climate has always changed. It's changed over a longer period than it's currently doing now, and nature has adapted in itself and man has adapted. This is what needs to happen.
Yeah.
So in an area that we may grow tea, and we expect that to be happening for the next 50 years, the sad reality, it's not true. We might have to shift that production to a completely different space or place.
Yeah. You talk about history. So 1893, Chicago World Fair, they asked everybody to write an essay on food in 1993. And for the first time, people heard about food capsules.
Yeah.
Are you scared of food capsules?
I'm terrified of food capsules. It's happening now, isn't it? I think people, I can walk into a pharmacist at home and half the shelves are full of vitamin supplements and protein supplements, and yet we're talking about whether people are cooking at home and eating a balanced meal, and the answer is probably not. And through convenience or commercial pressure, or possibly the idea that this is better for us than naturally grown, organic, delicious food of every variety, is a nonsense. I've been hearing this since I was a child. I remember watching a movie with Charlton Heston called Solient Green, terrifying, and it was about a little green strip of food that is everything people ate. I couldn't think of a world more terrifying, more bland, more soulless than without delicious and wonderful food. It's like life without art, or life without music, or life without love. I hope it never happens.
One of the first films on food capsule was in 1930, called Imagine That.
Yeah.
One other thing that's happening is the food chain is being invaded by microplastics.
Sure.
Microplastics are causing cancer, hormonal disorders,
Yeah.
and there's no regulation to check the production of plastics. The estimate is by 2050, the production will go up by 3 times. UN has been trying for a long time. 100 countries have agreed to cut down production, but the oil-producing countries don't want it.
Yeah.
Do
Solution?
these things worry you?
Solution? It's interesting, even if I can break it down a little bit, even in the industry that I'm in, or the rise of food on TikTok or Instagram, you'll see this very clearly, and people might relate to this. They'll see a video of somebody cooking something and ask why they're not wearing plastic gloves, and there'll be a big green emoji of somebody throwing up because they see it as unhygienic and disgusting. And I try to explain to people that as a chef, if I wore a pair of plastic gloves like a doctor does or a nurse every change of task, I probably, on average, would wear 60 pairs of plastic gloves in an 8-hour shift, right? You then multiply that over 20 or 30 chefs working in a kitchen, 20 or 30 front of house staff serving and working with plastic gloves on, and then multiply that by every restaurant and food production business in a region, in a city, and around the world, and those statistics become terrifying. And so what is happening to us, and why are we thinking that way, and why do we continue to do exactly the opposite of what we know is the right thing to do? So when you ask about microplastics, how much plastic is around us? We're buying our food wrapped in plastic because we don't want to buy it. The most ridiculous thing is seeing a coconut deshelled and then wrapped up in a polystyrene cushion and then wrapped in plastic with a tag on it with a barcode.
Yeah.
It's a food capsule in another sense, and it's a ridiculousness.
Yeah.
And in some way, we have to learn to stop ourselves. And the challenge, for example, I see in India is that, for example, quick commerce is going to skip supermarkets completely. That means that going forward in the next 2 years, we're getting more delivered instantly than we ever had. And with that comes a huge amount of packaging and plastics. So what are we prepared to compromise? I remember seeing somebody on television saying, are we prepared not to continue to buy things in plastic? Are we prepared to say no when we walk up to a shop and see packaging that is completely unnecessary? And what I see at the moment, terrifyingly, is no. My daughter's happy to get a delivery from Amazon or Temu, a box within a box within a box and packaging. And she's prepared to send it back if it doesn't fit and order another one. And I tried to explain to her, this is your future as much as everybody else's. So what are we going to do about it? And as the optimist I say, I think we are on the cusp of change. And I look at a country like India with 1.4 billion people and what it's achieving, what it's doing, what it has, what it can share with the rest of the world. And it's an incredible thing. The question is, like the Millets campaign, can we mobilize those people to spread the word?
Yeah, millet campaign is indeed commendable, but talking about plastics, let me tell you a small trivia. India is the largest producer of plastic waste.
Yep.
9 million tons.
Yep.
20% of the global plastic waste. But that's another story. Now
you just needed to get to the fact.
Now, let's come to this last part. You have to sit with your back straight.
I try to.
And bring your right foot on top of your left one. That was the mistake you were making.
Right. Oh, we're going to learn to
breathe in and chant Om.
Om.
So Om, the sound Om has three parts. A, O, M. Okay? And A, U, M. So A comes from the stomach, U comes from here, and M comes from here, Ma comes from here. Will you give it a try?
Only if you do it first. Is that a deal?
Nobody.
Because then that puts you on the
Nobody
spot.
wants it.
Well, maybe everybody should do it together. What do you think? Will you do that? Will you share in our So,
Okay.
try.
Place one hand here. Om.
Om.
One more time.
But if I'm going to do it, can everybody do it? Because I think that would be very special.
Take a deep breath. Take a deep breath. Everybody, please. Please join him.
Om.
And the last time. That was very good. Much better than the first one.
You didn't join me.
Keep your back straight, Gary. Yeah. Gary Mehigan, thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And thanks for joining me on that.
Thank you so much indeed, Gary, and also Devangji. I think we can all take a deep breath and think about our sustainable choices at every meal, isn't it? We should be doing that. And don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, Gary was speaking about sustainable products, and we have sustainable, food entrepreneurs really who have got some of their samples that you can take a look at right behind this stall. It's from the Konosh team. So don't forget to go and take a look. Ladies and gentlemen, let's have a huge round of applause for the wonderful Gary Mehigan. And I'd invite Megha Prasad to please come up on stage and present Gary with a memento from the ABP network for making us think about food and beyond food, how we are sourcing it and how we are protecting it.